welcome to the KillJoy Jake YouTube channel. I am Santa Claus, and no, I'm not gonna do that the whole video. I'm not committing to that. What's up, guys? Santa Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have Christmas presents for y'all. Not really, I wish I did. But I do have a big old video talking about the Black Christmas remakes. But before I pit all three of these movies against each other, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. It really helps this page grow, and I'll probably be able to do more crazy videos like this. Alright, now let's get into it. Get over here! Alright, we're just gonna do that. Now before I start talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's talk a little bit about these films. The original Black Christmas from 1974, originally titled Silent Night, Evil Nights, is a Canadian slasher film produced and directed by Bob Clark. The film notably stars Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, and John Saxon. And it's about a dude that sneaks into a sorority house, climbs into the attic, and starts picking them off one by one. A little fun fact about Black Christmas, usually people like to say that this is the very first slasher film. It kind of has all the elements of that. I would argue against that, but that's for a different video. Black Christmas from 2006, or abbreviated as Black Xmas, is a 2006 slasher film written and directed by Glenn Morgan. This film is notable for coming out right in the middle of the torture porn phase of horror, and let me tell ya, it gets real gory and crazy. Also, if you don't like eyeballs getting poked out, you might want to skip this one. And then there's Black Christmas 2019. I'm not even gonna mention the people that are attached to this film because let's just say this is gonna be a rough review. So now let's move into the nice. For the original, I would say, holy Christ on a cracker, those phone calls are scary. What a way to start a movie. I mean, that scene with those crazy phone calls coming in, you're not expecting that right off the bat. You kind of get some silly dialogue before there, so you're kind of thinking, okay, this is probably gonna be like a silly horror movie or something. But then you get these phone calls that are vicious and effectively scary. Great way to get your audience's attention, movie. The dialogue is hilarious at times. The comedy element literally speaks for itself in this film.
Could that be one person? No, Claire, that's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir doing their annual obscene phone call.
Subtle social commentary that's actually effective. This film does the whole feminism undertones really well because they're undertones. It's underlying, it's beneath the fact that it's a horror movie, but it's still there. Something that one of the remakes just does not get right. And I really love the ending. Spoiler alert, the killer doesn't die at the end, he's still alive. There's a phone call as the last scene of this movie. They thought it was the boyfriend, but it wasn't. Very solid ending that keeps the terror rolling. Alright, now let's move on to the 2006 film. For 2006, I would say the kills are top notch. By far the best kills in this franchise. It has some absolutely disgusting gore. And if you got a thing about eyeballs getting poked out, do not watch this movie. This is your absolute worst nightmare. I gotta give this remake credit for having a lot of bloody and disgusting kills because, well, it doesn't have much else to it. I also think the stylization isn't too bad. Even if it is kind of weird to have Christmas lights inside your house, I think it is pretty cool that they have a bunch of bright lights on dark, bleak backgrounds. Wow, that was hard to say. Very giallo. And then the good for 2019. Oh, there's nothing. Moving on to the naughty, or bad. For 1974, the only thing I got is that I don't really like the mystery elements. This rarely works for me in horror films. I don't really like when you're like, oh, it's a red herring that the boyfriend could be the killer, but it's obviously not. I will say Black Christmas probably does this the best out of any of the other horror films I've seen do this. Scream. Because at least the boyfriend dies at the end, but then he wasn't the killer. That's kind of a cool horror twist there, but it's just not done very well in other films. I'm just not a big fan of it. Also, I guess I've seen a lot of horror movies do this before, so anytime I see it in another movie, I'm just like, I've seen this before. For the 2006 film, the mystery element is even worse. They tried to do the red herring thing with the boyfriend again. It just does not land. You probably could have taken that element out of this film entirely and just relied on the gore because, well, there's nothing else that this movie really does that well. Spatial logic does not exist in this movie, apparently. There are times when a character leaves a room, looks around, comes back in, and somehow the killer's in there. There's no way. There's no way. It just doesn't make any sense. Unless you set up some kind of supernatural element for the killer, you can't really do something like this. Billy is not Jason Voorhees. And then there's that scene. Oh yes, if you've seen the 2006 film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I already don't like seeing this in horror movies I've talked about in the past. I just think it's completely unnecessary to put that in a fun horror movie. Not that this movie is super fun, but I think if you can avoid putting this kind of scene in your horror film, do it. Just don't put it in there. There's no reason to force this kind of scene into a movie. This is one of those times where I feel like it's definitely forced into this this film. Maybe it's because in 2006 they were just trying to go balls to the wall crazy. They were just trying to make dirty and gross films at this time. But I guess that just did not age well for me. Also, can this film stop trying to be Scream? If that's not Roger L. Jackson over the phone, it's a dude doing an impersonation of it. I mean, I get it. Scream came out like, what, 10 years before this? But still, I would like to see a 90s version of Black Christmas where Roger L. Jackson does the phone calls and maybe they throw a meta twist on it. That would be interesting, but this film just doesn't do that. It tries to mix like the phone call craziness element of like the Scream films mixed in with like torture porn kills. I've said torture porn way too many times in this video already to be comfortable. So let's move on to the 2019 film. The social commentary message is so unbelievably unclear, I can't even tell what this was trying to go for. When you spend 90% of your movie trying to shove down people's throats the thing that you're trying to say, it becomes completely unclear and falls over on top of itself. I mean, what I think they were going for was saying that, hey, frat culture is really f***ed up right now, we gotta change that. And I totally agree, I get that. But when you forget that you're a horror movie and you put that out front, it just becomes a preachy mess that nobody wants to watch. It makes this movie completely unenjoyable because it's basically just like watching someone preach about this for 90 minutes. Which, once again, I agree with. It's just I don't want to see a 90-minute speech about that. I came for a horror movie. Sometimes subverting your expectations isn't always a good thing. Not one jump scare lands. First of all, you made a slasher film that relies on jump scares. That's a big no-no. Second of all, your jump scares don't even land. Why? Like, why? Why would you even do that? If you had confidence in your jump scares, you're like, these are gonna land. I have like 3 really good ones that are gonna be good. Go ahead and put them in your slasher film. But none of them land! I wasn't shocked one time in this film. I can't believe I spent money to go see this in theaters. Half of this movie is unnecessary scenes that don't add to the plot. Once again, it's just one big, long, preachy mess of a film. It also tries to remake scenes from the original, but completely fails. I already don't like when you try to just copy what the original did for a remake. Why would you want to watch the same film again, but done by somebody else? Like, give me a new take on it. I just went on that crazy rant and I'm dressed as Santa Claus. None of you are taking me seriously right now, and that is totally fine. These videos are meant to entertain anyways, so I hope you like my preachy rant. At least it wasn't 90 minutes. But seriously, the 2019 film is hella naughty, so it's going on the ugly list. You're gonna get coal in your stock in this year 2019 film. This was one of the only movies I've almost walked out of the theater watching. There's nothing to it. The very clear winner here is the original. I mean, come on. The 2006 film is good. Like, I mean, I like the kills and stuff, but plot-wise, it kind of does the same thing as the original, except it has that insanely long extended Scream 4 ending. That's another thing I don't like about the 2006 film. I don't like when horror films like just keep going after all the action is basically over, and then they're like, okay, let's keep it rolling, let's keep the punches rolling. Oh, the killer's still alive and somehow made it to the hospital. Scream 4 being the biggest culprit of that. I love the original film. It's a cult classic, also kind of one of the first films that do the slasher genre the way that we know it, at least. It's also a 70s horror film that I feel like modern people can really get into. You have humor that holds up, effectively scary phone calls, and characters you actually care for the whole time, which for fans of modern horror is hard to find in some of these older films. But I would highly recommend you check out Black Christmas from 1974 if you've never seen it, and if you watch this whole video and listen to me spoil it, well, sorry, that's kind of your own fault, man. What did you expect this video to be? Thank you guys so much for watching my remake versus original of the Black Christmas films. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content, even if you are a fan of the 2019 film. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KillJoyJake1 and on Instagram at KillJoy_Jake. And as always, ho ho ho! Don't forget to kill it out there, y'all. That's my best Santa impression. Okay, end of video.